Disruption. I'm your host, Nick Lefebvre. This is the show that digests and debates the ideas that affect and impact the world of strength sports and bodybuilding. We all know that success only comes from change, and in order to start making change, you first need a little disruption. That's what this show is trying to do, disrupt how we currently think about strength and bodybuilding in order to find new ways of thinking about the sports and our involvement in them. We are not here to solve or rant, just maybe to offer a little bit of the kind of insight that might change sports culture as a whole. I'm joined, of course, by my co-host, Christian Matyi. What's up, Christian?
Nice script read.
Thank you. Yeah. I tried to be slightly less robotic, and I don't think it would help. But
that's fine. Hey, we're a casual, friendly vidcast, so
yeah,
don't even want to say podcast.
Test tube, baby. Okay.
I know. I keep wanting to say podcast, but that's because hey, the new season of my personal podcast, The Big Inside, biginside.com, just began. So I'm going to do a log roll here. Do a log roll and go to thebiginside.com and check it out. It's pretty awesome.
Definitely check it out. There's actually some awesome content on there. It's a very, very interesting show. You definitely cover some pretty cool topics. So I'm excited that it's back.
And also, I'm doing this episode injured because I bit my finger. Like Charlie bit my finger.
Sounds
I bit my finger. Like what happened was, this has never happened in my entire life. I was eating a piece of bread and I actually chomped my finger and I went down hard. And I didn't know that humans.
I'm never gonna let you hear the end of that because if I did that,
you
fucking meathead.
There's like a little bruise. It's like I'm like, who bites their own finger? It was insane. It was so I'm
mouth breathing troglodyte.
That's what we're working with today, and I'm sticking with it. All right, what do we got?
So today we're going to talk about the relevance of coaching in strength sports and bodybuilding. I guess kind of leading us.
Can you get more narrow?
Is a very broad topic. Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of take away some of the vagueness surrounding that statement, I guess what I'm referring to in particular is the there's too much coaching that goes on. People who have barely lifted are still experimenting. They don't know what works for them, what doesn't work for them. They don't even know how to pick out a good coach because they don't know what the red flags are for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, and they're paying somebody money monthly. And I just think it's getting to the point where it's kind of making a mockery of the sport.
Are you saying like are you saying that you want to talk about coaching in terms of how there's a fadism going on and like the fad of coaching is the problem?
Yeah, there is a fad of coaching and it's becoming, I think, a bit of an issue. You know, it takes away from the process. People aren't interested in learning for themselves anymore. I think it detracts from the sport. You know, one of the most common things I was fucking asked this prep, and it drove me up the fucking wall. People are like, well, who's coaching you? Who are you working with? Well, fucking nobody, because I don't think I'm at the level that I require somebody who has been dedicating their entire lives to this in order to fine-tune the kind of improvements that I need. I think I'm still in a place where I'm learning, I'm processing, I'm still able to grow and get more shredded and come in better condition of my own accord. And more importantly than that, you know, I have a network of friends and associates in the industry, people that I respect and trust, people that know what they're talking about. And that kind of gives me, you know, if I need a second opinion on something, which, you know, for the most part, it's all pretty straightforward when you're dieting down.
Yeah, but can I pull you back?
What's that?
Can I pull you back from the can I pull you back from the personal a second?
Your input, because you're somebody who has coached a lot of individuals, so it'll be interesting to hear.
Yeah, and I guess I want to pull back from the. I got two questions for you, but first, I guess what I wanted to clarify is what you're saying is that because I have known you to have coaches, but it isn't that you have a coach who is like your committed guru. Is that what you're saying? Like you don't have a coach, you will accept coaching from people who you rely on, trust, and all that.
Yeah, I'll accept input from people that I rely on, whether it comes to somebody's opinion on posing or, you know, I obviously have trained with the guys in our area at a gym called Northeast Ironworks, bunch of strong motherfuckers. They all know what they're doing. And it's more of like a training group, like a collaborative that all works together, especially a lot of those guys really rely pretty heavily on each other's feedback regarding form.
But let me ask you this. Yeah, let me ask you this. Is that all right, so in 30 seconds or less,
okay,
define two questions. Define what is a coach? Like, what does that mean? What does the word coach mean in your mind? And then what makes a good coach? So like first define it and then give me like, sorry, doing like debate terms here. What makes a good, like, but what makes a coach and then what makes a good coach or a bad coach, like the good, bad.
Yeah. Catching me a little off guard here. I wasn't prepared for that, but,
well, we're talking about coaching. We might as well talk about the essence of it to get into why it's good.
Absolutely. So I guess a coach is somebody that I would consider you're paying money to. They're writing your program. They're doing your diet. They're doing something like that, whatever it is that you're paying them for, right? Because it can be kind of specific like that. That's pretty much it, right? I mean, I don't know what other parameters.
But what is that different? How's that different from like, say, the guy at the supplement store, or say a trainer, or say like just someone who like does a workshop on posing for you if you're a bodybuilder, or a workshop on lifting if you're a strongman? How is that? What makes it a coach like specifically?
An ongoing arrangement, right? You're paying them monthly.
Okay, so it's ongoing.
Guidance. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's kind of, the commonly accepted parameter in today's day and age. When you talk to somebody who's getting ready for a meet or a bodybuilding competition, they've been paying somebody for their whole prep or the peak or whatever is going on up until the time of the competition.
I guess I see coach as, I'm just going to jump in real quickly with my two penny definition before asking you to say what good and bad is. To me, a coach precludes that the majority of discipline is already present in the person being serviced, or the student, the mentor, the discipline, whatever you want to do. That basically what a coach does is exactly that. It coaches forward a process that's already in motion. A trainer or a teacher or something of this role is somebody who actually teaches that process itself. Now, obviously there's gray area, and sometimes a coach will behave like a trainer and actually execute the learning of knowledge, but that's not why you're relying on the coach. The coach makes what you're already doing better, or helps guide you through what you're already going to do in a way. It's a supplemental mentorship as opposed to a mentorship that is like a guru or a trainer, where you really rely on that person because you just don't have that information. And sometimes the coach will have it, but I'm saying the essence of it is about the movement.
Yeah, that's what the essence of a good coach should be, right? You should be coaching somebody into a place where they're learning, they're developing their own process and working towards acquiring that knowledge for themselves so that they can further their progress. And like you said, the discipline should be entirely on the person who is being coached, the coachee, if you will. And a coach is somebody who's guiding that process, helping them, supplying them with the information they need to become more and more self-sufficient. Now, that might be a temporary thing, a long-term thing, whatever the case may be, because whoever you're working with, it can depend, right? They might only need a little push. Okay, well, they've learned a lot, but they could use some fine-tuning in terms of understanding nutrition, getting ready for a show. Even though they know how to build muscle and do all this in the off season, maybe it's their first time competing, that kind of thing. And it shouldn't be somebody.
I want to jump in.
Well, I think we see it as like we see it the way we're articulating it. It's like a two-sided street, right? And the individual is contributing that they know a little bit about what works for them. They're saying, hey, here's my feedback. I'm feeling too beat up. I can't recover from this training. I noticed that I'm getting a little bit weaker, or, the opposite. I think I can push the volume a little bit more. I need a little bit more in order to stimulate, this adaptation principle, whatever the case may be, versus what we're seeing from a lot of people is like, they're super inexperienced. They've never even given a shit about trying anything on their own. And they're relying solely on this like guruism from somebody that they're paying money monthly to. And they're not thinking about it at all. They're just following whatever process is handed down to them.
And that's why I wanted to break in. Yeah. I want to break in there because what you're saying, that leads into your exact point about whether there's too much of it, because I guess I'm going to simplify it, a definition that's sort of a leading definition, but one that you tell me if you agree with, that if you will, a coach is somebody who helps you locate resources or helps guide you toward or through resources, but isn't the resource themselves necessarily. They can be, but that's not their job to be the resource. Versus a trainer or a guru, they actually are that resource, which is why a coach might guide an athlete toward a trainer, toward that resource.
Okay, yeah.
Like I think that what you're getting upset with is that in the competitive world, people get a coach and it's a name that's a fake name on somebody who just is giving all the information, and you're just following their script.
Yeah.
Like exactly. Like you obey the coach and do what they tell you to do, which isn't really coaching. That's like obedience or training, or it is a thing. But I agree with you that this fad that I'm a coach and I'm somehow elevated above a trainer. It's like, no, you're telling people what to do. You're the boss.
I think there's a slew of problems coming along with that. I mean, for example, you'll see people, it's a common joke, right? Like we're always making fun of it. Anybody who's got a couple of years under their belt or whatever, we can all see the issue. You know, somebody who's competed once is now coaching other people. And it's like, they don't know what to look out for. They don't know the pitfalls. They don't know what they're doing.
Here's my test.
How to overcome obstacles.
I do this to people all the time.
What are they going to
if they can't
towards if they haven't pushed through any adversity themselves in terms of their own training or their own prep or their own nutrition?
But here's the test. Here's the measure. So someone says that exactly, like some 22-year-old kid, he won 3 contests. Some 24-year-old guy, he won a few guys. And then they're saying they're a coach. And I'm not saying they don't have knowledge that they could share. Of course they do. Most definitely. But I always say this. If you can replicate your experience, then you're a good coach, okay? If you can only replicate your results, you're not a coach. And let me be clear on that. If I can replicate within you the same trophy I won, I'm a trainer. However, if I, through getting my trophy, learned how to like figure things out and learned how to put programs together and all that stuff I learned by getting my trophy, if I can show you how to do that, then that's more of a coach role. Like, you understand that? It sounds subtle at first until you start thinking about it. Replicating the experience is a much broader thing. How do you figure these things out? Why does this thing work? Why doesn't that work?
That leads back to
that's the thing that makes you a coach, is if you can replicate the experience.
Leads back to one of the other issues we're seeing with coaching, which I think is more prominent, honestly, when it comes to like the NPC and the IFBB and whatever the case may be. Kind of at that more elite level where there's more competitors, that kind of thing. But I think you'll see, and you and I have seen it, you know, on a local level, that kind of thing.
I'm going to name a name.
No, let's not do that. But
please, then I will name this person indirectly.
Not on my show. Not on my show.
No, listen. All right, so I won't name them. I'll say that it's a big. You said IFBB. It's a big IFBB guy.
Let me finish my thought.
Let me finish.
No. Let me fucking finish. So for anybody listening who doesn't know where we're going with this, you'll see a coach, especially on a local level, that grabs up 1 or 2 competitors that already kind of know what they're doing. They already have that discipline within themselves. They don't need a whole lot of guidance, but they could definitely use some, like a little bit of direction. Cool, that's what a coach is there for. But they'll grab these guys that already have a shit ton of potential and are already 90% of the way to being a nationally qualified athlete or something like that. They'll grab onto these names. Now these names are associated with them as a coach, and boom, all of a sudden they're picking up clients left and right. And like, this person might be a bit of a shitty coach. Like, they might be guiding people towards, you know, we'll see somebody go on like a fucking crash diet when they're getting ready for a show. And it's like, somebody who has no business being on 1,300 calories is on 1,300 calories and 2 hours of cardio a day. And all of a sudden, you know, a few weeks out from a show, their progress stalls and the coach is like, well, push harder. What the fuck is there to push harder from at that point? You're dieting on fucking nothing, you know, especially depending on what the situation is. They might be relying on drugs to carry them past that point. And you're dieting on fucking lettuce and fucking tuna, and you're doing 2 hours of cardio a day. What the fuck can you add to that when you haven't taken the time to build properly in an off season?
Right, and I think that what you're getting at is what I was going to mention. I won't say this guy's name, but there's a coach. He's a prominent guy, IFBB past kind of thing. And I've just, for whatever reason in my coaching, I keep bumping into his detritus. So he's this guy who has these programs that really are exactly what you're saying. It's like these, do it this way, and if it's not working, push harder. Push on what? But that's his attitude. And it's interesting because he calls himself a coach, and what he's borrowing on is the provenance of all the great bodies, like you're saying. He associates himself with all these people who won, And what you're seeing on the outside is, oh my God, look at all these guys who've won, without looking at the fact that the whole pool of people he's working with, it might be like, I'm exaggerating here, but it might be like 30 or 40 people, of which you're only looking at the 4 best ones as his measure of whether he's a good coach. Well, if I'm only going to show my best things, you're going to think I'm a great coach.
Yeah.
And like when you look at his social media, you see that pattern. That's why I want to name it specifically, because I don't like talking general. I like to ground my arguments, but let's just leave it at that. So,
not going to happen.
Not here. No lawsuits. I got you. We'll dish another day.
And what you're
to get us back on track,
like 10 different fucking people anyway. So
yeah. But let me get back on track to say, to your original point that you opened the show with that massive pause that we could have driven a truck through, which was very dramatic, Nick.
It that long to think, so
it was incredible. And so I think that this is going to sound crazy, but I have an old joke in coaching. All bodybuilders, all lifters have daddy issues. Now I know that sounds corny, but I do think that there's something about latching on to some lore, some tradition, some mythos of something bigger. Like, I'm part of this great lifting group. I'm part of this great bodybuilding heritage. I'm part of something. That idea of belonging to something, like that I'm going to be daddied in through some great guru guide into this tradition, and then I'll be the famous blank. And I feel like that desire to be known, recognized, and seen is in the communities of bodybuilding, is in the communities of strongman and powerlifting. And so that's inadvertently, whether people are conscious of it or not, what's being played into when one of these guys is like, yeah, I'm going to take you far. I'm going to bring you down this path. No one's saying it directly. Some people actually are saying it directly like that. But it's that's what we're playing into, that weird desire that evolves into, I got to be the pro. They're hitting it at its earliest stage. Like, I see something great in you, and I'm going to bring you into that flow that's going to take you to glory. And that doesn't mean it's a good coach. It means it's a persuasive voice. And that's what annoys me, is that it's the persuasive, charismatic guys who are luring in clients. And I'm not bemoaning anyone making money. God bless capitalism. Everyone can make if that's how they make their money, sales pitching, that's fine. But I hear what you're saying. It's undermining a quality point within the sport. Right. And that's what you're getting at.
It is. I think it's detracting from, and it's detracting. It's funny because you're talking about people building up these like little, I wouldn't even call them communities. They're more like building up these little cliques of people that are under somebody's reign.
And sometimes cults.
Yeah. Cults. That's, synonymous with guruism, right? Cults. But you see these kind of, and we're using some dramatic language, but I mean, essentially that's kind of what's going on here. In its own way, it detracts from the community. You'd think, oh, cool. Well, people are getting brought together. They're part of a team, but it's really, you're biting your own ass in terms of like competitors and building community and building camaraderie. Because instead of building up people around you and saying, hey, here's what I experienced, here's what worked for me, why don't you try this? And you're falling back on, maybe you and your buddy are kind of going back and forth. I had a few people close to me that I was like, okay, what do you think of this during my prep? And like, this is how I'm going to switch up my training. I took a very different approach than I have previously.
Heck, I was spot coaching you at points. Sure.
Yeah, you helped out. You gave me some input. My buddy Chris helped me out, like Mike, all types of stuff like that. And I kind of relied on people around me, when my head wasn't clear, when I maybe needed some guidance or I wanted to switch things up or whatever the case may be. And I took a drastically different approach in a number of ways. But it was like that community effort. And same thing, I had one of those guys when he was prepping, come back to me and say, hey, what worked for you at this point? And I was like, well, here's what I tried. Here's what worked for me. We were talking about intermittent carb cycling, things like that. And it's like that is building the community. When you bring a group of people together and you're learning from each other's experiences and you're building each other up, that is what adds to that camaraderie. That is what adds to the community. And that is ultimately what adds to the improvement of the sport versus you fall under somebody's, are taken under somebody's wing. They send you something each week and they say, do X, Y, and Z. Sure, you might learn some stuff in the process, but realistically, you're just depending on what it is that they say. That's not going to.
Have you ever been to like a bar or a restaurant or a party and there's this woman and she's all kinds of glowing and she's there. She looks great. Her hair's perfect and everything's nice. And her fiance is nearby. And every time a conversation strikes up. She slides in there that she's 8 months to a wedding, and look at my ring, and she's showing off that ring, and she's talking about the wedding.
Wow, you
And how she's bragging so much about the wedding.
Here.
And she does not I'm sorry, it could be a dude doing it. A dude could be bragging about the wedding. I don't mean to make it sexist, but let's just keep it on this example. We'll call her Melanie. Okay. And
do you know
if there's a Melanie out there doing this? I dropped a name. I made up a name. And so Melanie's there, and she's very classy chick typically, but she's all about this wedding. And she never once mentions Edward. She doesn't mention the husband and what she likes about Edward, or the fact that, when he's out on the boat, he's a trip. And it's not even a big boat, but he's a hoot. She doesn't talk about him. She talks about the wedding and where they're going to have it and how they're going to have lobster ravioli. And she has all these details, right? Very specific. And you get annoyed because you're like, Melanie, are you more excited for the wedding, or are you excited for the marriage? And that's what a lot of these people, I feel like you're saying, are doing, is that they're bragging about their coach. Like, I have a coach, and look at the coach I have, not look at my bodybuilding. Look at what I'm learning. Yeah. Look at my...
I was waiting for you to tie that loop. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's essentially, kind of where it ends up. You end up talking about or fixating on, and like you said, people end up fixating on the results instead of the process. And that's not anything that benefits the sport. It's not anything that benefits any one individual, except the person that's passing down that process, or passing down those tenets that people are abiding by, instead of improving their own process or learning or finding out what works for them. And it looks like you are frozen up, so this is probably a good place to end before I enter another rant. So for everybody listening, check out The Big Inside, Christian Matyi's podcast. And thanks for joining us on Disruption. We hope we were able to provide a bit of a different perspective. This show is brought to you today by SciSay Sports, makers of Rect pre-workout. Learn more at www.scisaysports.com. Link will be in the video description. Today's show was produced by myself, Nick Lefebvre, along with Christian Matyi and the Physiculture Collaborative. Be sure to leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. We're interested in hearing your feedback. Even if you call us pieces of shit, we're curious to see what people have to say. Definitely subscribe for future episodes of Disruption. And let us know what you guys want to see. If you have any ideas about what you might want to hear us talk about for an episode, anything like that. So thanks again from all of us here at SciSay Sports. Until next time, keep disrupting what you think you know in order to keep improving what you can become. Have a great day, everybody.